Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against XTRG, playing play-by-email of this classic game. Today we're going to be fighting February 8th, it's the February 7 replay, with the February 8th orders phase. The war is going reasonably well, I think, for the Allies, although the Japanese have started to pick up their tempo in the Dutch East Indies and in New Guinea. And they have begun to land many forces along the New Guinea coast. Okay, so there's some submarine actions going on here off the coast of Borneo, although mostly just anti-submarine patrols. I need to do a better job of moving my subs around. They've been kind of sitting in the same spot for like 2 weeks. Alright, but yeah, the war is continuing. The Japanese are accelerating their advance in the Dutch East Indies, and the advance in the South Pacific seems to have slowed down, at least for the moment, although New Caledonia has fallen, which is problematic for us. We've got carriers off the west coast of Australia, the last that we had noticed, and hopefully they're withdrawing now because they're a bit of a threat to Perth and like 12 to 15 tankers we have operating in that area. Java is probably closed down. We've had enemy bombers operating in the seas to the west of Java, which has meant that we really haven't been able to get as much oil out of Java and Palembang as we would like to in the last couple of turns. We're probably going to have to start doing much longer, less efficient convoy routes in order to utilize those tankers. Meanwhile, a lot of submarine, anti-submarine patrol actions here in the morning phase of February 7th. Some Coast Watcher activity going on in the Bismarck Archipelago. Not going to invade Vichy. Come on now, let's be smart. I wouldn't even get to Vichy. My transports would be sunk like 1,000 miles away. Alright, so we're into the air operation phase. No naval combat. I think we had ordered our cruisers to pull back to Perth and avoid the enemy cruiser or enemy carriers. Looks like there was some recon over Wellington in the southern portion of New Zealand, which is where we have carriers going to, by the way. Also, let me know, guys, if you can hear me okay over the audio. The audio is not quite down-mixed as much as it usually would, so if I am drowned out by these bombing raids, please let me know, because I can't hear anything in my ear right now. I'm going deaf because of how loud the combat results are. Alright, we've got some air actions over here over Rangoon. 7 enemy Sally bombers are moving in to attack, but 50 Ki-43 Oscars are escorting them. That's a hell of a lot of Army fighters. We don't have anywhere near enough escorts to intercept. We're going to fast forward through here. Looks like we might have gotten in on the bombers, though. Only 1 got through to the target. 4 Sallies were destroyed, 1 damaged. The Japanese fighters must not have been super efficient. Maybe they were too high, I don't know. But in any event, we only lost 1 Buffalo destroyed. While we got in amongst the bombers and shot down 4 and damaged a 5th, only a single bomber made it to the target and did nothing. So that's a good result. Bombing of Bataan. Looks like we got 1 with flak. Bombing of Wangkao. Or Wangchao. Large air raid over Singapore. Oh, I forgot about my air cobras. 61 nates. That's a lot of fucking nates. And about 40-some bombers. What the hell's the Ki-43 Mary? I don't know if I've ever seen that aircraft before. Is that like a newer dive bomber? I'd have to check the British south of Bangkok. There are troops on near the Malay Peninsula that are cut off, but the other guys should be in supply. Right, the air cobras intercepted. They didn't lose anything. So we need to pull those air cobras out. Meanwhile, he's got Tojos, the more modern fighters, sweeping at Singapore. But there was a Mary, not the Ki-43 Oscar. There was an aircraft that was named Mary. Maybe I mispronounced the name. 21 Lilies coming in. Getting some damage by flak here. Bombers hitting Bataan. The Mary's old? The airframe looked new. It looked young. Huh. Okay. It looked like a sleek monoplane compared to some of the other airframes, but alright. Bombing the Japanese the Royal Thai Army Division to the east of Pegu. A couple of air raids coming in here. Doing a little bit of damage to the Japanese troops defending. That's just the makeup. Hey, Kyle. You happy? I'm playing some War in the Pacific. I know you asked if we were going to be doing that any time ever again. 43 zeros over Rangoon. No! Everybody run away. Just go land. Nothing here. Nobody to do anything with. Oh, God. Well, how bad was that? 43 zeros versus 5 Flying Tigers, 3 Blenheim IFs, 9 Buffaloes, 16 Hurricanes, 9 Warhawks. That's 25, 34, 37, 42 aircraft versus 43. 4 zeros were shot down, supposedly, which is a very good result, I think. But we lost 10 aircraft, so 3-1 almost in his favor, 2.5-1. That's a bit of a bloody mess. The good thing is our fighters that get shot down are flying over friendly territory, so there's less likelihood that they become prisoners of war. The Japanese probably lose every single pilot who gets shot down. Still, I'm not sure it's more than a 2.5-1 anything. Damn it, Jim! Alright, some recon, airstrikes, PM phase. We'll have to take a look at the post-replay results, see what actually happened. Alright, 33 bombers here hitting Changsha. I didn't even bother to look at what the actual combat results were. 37 Sallies hitting Changsha. He is really investing his land bombing force here in China. Hopefully he'll take some op losses. Whoa! 39 Nates and 9 Sonyas over Changsha. Do we have no anti-aircraft there? Are we not shooting at them? Ugh. World War II through history. It's the historical Admiral. Alright, fast forwarding. More anti-submarine warfare stuff that amounts to nothing. I guess the good news is the air phases went by and there was no sign of the enemy carriers, so that's good. Meanwhile, his heavy cruisers continue to bombard near Wangchao. Whoa, 603 casualties to 3 heavy cruisers bombarding? Whoa, 849 fire. They bombarded the city, not the troops, the city. 849 fires are started, 3 manpower hits, 1 heavy industry hit. That was a strategic bombardment against the industry there. Which is doubly bad because when he destroys industry, we actually lose victory points. That's... Nobody tell XTRG this, but one of the ways you can very quickly win in China is Japan, is by launching bombing raids not against the troops, but against the industry. Because the industry in China is critical to being able to supply your troops. So if you do what he just did and you target the industry, you can actually wipe out the ability for the Chinese to supply themselves, and the trickle that comes through the Burma Road is nowhere near enough to keep them supplied. So this is, if this represents a change in his focus, where he is en masse going to start trying to cripple Chinese industry, that's a flaw in the game, which is it's a flaw in the game. It's not remotely historically accurate, but it is a way to overcome China very much easier and cheaper by targeting the industry directly. Now, the one thing that makes me think maybe he didn't get told to change the strategy is he only did this with the bombardment group. The strategic bombers didn't do anything like that I saw. So we'll have to see. All right. Anti-submarine warfare stuff off Kendari. From Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay, the Japanese will be his prey, the historical gamer. That one's good, Oriole. All right, so ground combat here in central China. Surprised we actually didn't get driven back. In any event, we lost 210 casualties to 40 Japanese. Japanese deliberate attack at Nanning. Good news is the rest of our troops did arrive, so this should fail, I hope. He has a mixed brigade and a regiment of troops, and he's attacking Chinese corps, 3 Chinese corps and a base force. Okay, very good result at Nanning. Very good result. 1-4 Japanese odds. 654 casualties by the Japanese. 3 squads destroyed, 111 disabled. Only 1 Chinese squad lost, 31 disabled. Hell yeah! That was awesome. You're going to keep giving me bits if I sing? I mean, then this can just turn into a musical fest, J Street. But that is a very good result. I know the casualties probably seem a little bit light, but a 1-4 assault odds. Those troops arrived. He waited 1 day too long. If you remember yesterday, I said, why didn't XTRG attack at Nanning? My troops were on the edge. We had 1 fort level, which we had just rebuilt. We had a base force of 30 assault value. That's all we had standing in his way. He waited a turn too long, and just like the Union showing up just in time at Gettysburg, the Japanese waited too long. 3 corps of reinforcements show up, 24,000 soldiers, 194 guns, 745 assault value, and the Japanese ran into a stone wall of gunfire, and the casualty losses only being 654. They still had 111 squads disabled, so only 3 destroyed squads, but basically a brigade, almost a brigade worth of disabled squads. So we may want to counterattack tomorrow. We'll see. Meanwhile, Japanese shock attack at Singapore. So the Japanese have crossed the river from Johor Bahru into Singapore. Because they are crossing the river, they are required by the game mechanics. Anytime you cross a body of water with land units, if there are hostile units on the other side, you automatically shock attack. I think it's to symbolize like a river crossing and trying to establish a beachhead, which is very costly. In any event, the Japanese are shock attacking here at Singapore. They have 4 full divisions. They don't have a lot of fluff. They don't have a lot of artillery that we can see here, but they have 4 full divisions committed to the attack. The 48th, the 5th, the 18th Infantry Divisions, and then the Imperial Guards Division, which is a very good Japanese division. The assault value here consists of more than 1,200 assault value here. Now, our defenders have around 1,100. We also have 4 forts, so I'm thinking he may be going in a little bit light here for the attack on Singapore, but this is... you've come a long way with the singing, but not that far. Yeah, this is a very strong force. 4 divisions is nothing to be sneezed at, but without support forces, without artillery or other things like that, without some amount of softening up of the troops, which he has just not done yet, I think he may not be strong enough. But we'll see. The morale and experience of our troops is pretty low, and we don't have a lot of big, strong units here. So let's go ahead and fast forward through here. Whoa, the Imperial Guards are down to 0. Whoa! Attacking force, 51,275 troops, 492 guns, 195 vehicles versus 54,454 defenders. The defenders outnumbered the attackers, which I think historically they did at Singapore. More guns on the defenders, more than 100 more vehicles on the defenders. He did have 600 more assault value. Somehow he had 1,700 assault value. I didn't see that much. The adjusted is 1,000 versus 1,900 when you factor in the fort level of 4. Assault odds are 1-2. He didn't even bring engineers with him, which I think is the big critical failing. He should have brought engineers. If he had brought an engineer regiment or 2, he might have reduced the forts and made his life a lot easier. He brought no engineers. As a result, 1-2 assault odds, which doesn't reduce the fort. Engineers don't reduce the fort. The fort stays at level 4. His troops do establish their beachhead, but they lose 8,116 casualties, 209 infantry squads destroyed, 580 disabled, 4 non-combatants destroyed, 28 engineer squads destroyed, 76 disabled, 87 guns lost, 2 of those destroyed, 11 vehicles lost, 2 of those destroyed. The Allies, on the other hand, only lose 30 squads destroyed and 147 disabled, vastly fewer, 19 non-combatants and 56 disabled, 3 engineers and 21 disabled, and 11 vehicles lost, 1 of those destroyed. A very good result for the defenders. Again, you're going to inflict more casualties on the Japanese on their first attack into Singapore. But in my mind, the reason this is a very successful and exciting result is not only did we give him the bloody nose, which is pretty much inevitable no matter what, unless he brought in like 8 divisions, but the fact that he didn't reduce the forts and he didn't bring engineer units, dedicated engineer units with him to reduce the forts, to me, shows a critical lack of preparation for the assault on Singapore. Singapore will fall, there is no question about that, but the fact that his next attack is also going to be at a level 4 fort, and level 4 is where things kind of change and things start getting very difficult when you're the attacker. Anything you can do to bring the forts down to 3, 1 to 3, they can be tough, but they're not too bad. 4 and higher are very difficult to deal with, and he didn't do anything there to reduce those forts. So that's a very good result for us. Swen Kang, probably not going to be as good of a result here. Infantry regiment attacking 4 battalions, or a battalion and 2 base forces, 3 base forces, and they take the base. So this is immediately going to become a Betty base, no doubt about it. A Nell and Betty bomber base. We lose 616 men, 17 squads destroyed. He loses 39 men, nothing destroyed. Deliberate attack at Babot. No one's there. No one's home. Allied shock attack against the 2nd RTA division here with the 16th Indian Brigade, which apparently is very weak. Only 18 assault value here. 1 to 2 assault odds. 233 casualties, 2 destroyed against nothing for the Thai forces. So that was a pretty bad result. Fortunately, only 2 squads are actually destroyed. We'll have to send some reinforcements there to aid our troops there against the Thai forces here to the east of Pegu. Maybe we'll send a whole division. I don't know. We should be able to win that one, but we just didn't send enough troops. I had assumed since that 1 brigade was all it took to defeat the Thai forces further south, that would be enough, but apparently not. Terrain modifiers and other things like that. Deliberate attack at Wadapon. Okay, they took the base. They also took Para. So the situation on Celebes is getting pretty desperate pretty quick. We don't have a lot of troops there. It's not disastrous, but as soon as he takes that, we got to presume he's going to move that infantry division off west toward Java or other targets. Yeah, I don't think it's a probing of Singapore J Street because you can't really probe in that manner. What I'm not 100% clear on is if he brings reinforcements up, if they have to shock attack. I don't think they do since he already has troops there. So I guess it could be just like the initial bloody nose that he takes, send enough to establish the beachhead, send reserves in afterwards. I think that might be possible, but I'm not 100% sure. All right, so that is the replay. All right, so we are into our turn. I don't think I'm going to do everything for this turn, guys. Admittedly, I probably want to take a little bit longer on this turn, so I'll probably hang on to this for 2 or 3 days after this video, and then I will go ahead and send it to XTRG. No 30-year-old whiskey either, unless somehow you can distill me into whiskey, and that's a little bit Hannibal Lecter. But anyway, so let's see here. I'm probably going to do more of an overview because I won't have made all my final decisions yet. If we go to Wenkao here where he's bombarded with his cruisers, we can see the heavy industry has lost 6 of its 20 to damage. Runway damage of 18, service damage 10, port damage 16. Resources are actually undamaged. Manpower is undamaged. There are 330 fires, which I don't really know if that's bad or not. Like, I don't know how that works. We still have 2,000 supply, which isn't a lot, especially for the forces there. But the troops located there, we still have 330 assault value by the 100th Chinese Corps, and nobody's in red supply yet. So he's probably using a lot of supply of his own by bombarding with heavy cruisers there. He's going to have to withdraw them back to other bases and load up supply and other things like that. So, you know, if he wants to wear his troops out, I guess whatever. It could have been worse. Other than that, not a lot else going on in China here. Wenkao or Changsha continues to kind of be what it is. Fortifications are at 18%. We're probably never going to get back to 5 fort levels. If we move down to Singapore, where he moved his troops across, you can see here we had 1,100 assault value. We now have 1,002, so we lost about 10% of our force's assault strength. We still have 32,000 supplies there. If we're looking, I thought we were building up. We are building up toward level 5 forts. We're at 17%. It's unlikely we'll get there, but who knows? Maybe he'll wait 2 weeks and we'll get a chance to get up to 50, up to level 5 forts and bloody him even more when he attacks again. I'm just hoping. Air Cobras I'm going to want to pull out. The division that attacked near Pegu. Holy cow, 65 of our infantry squads are disrupted. That's not good. We need to send reinforcements to those guys. We're going to send the 1st Burma Division. We're just going to crush these guys. I don't think there's any way he can come up more quickly and take Pegu out from underneath us. So we're just going to send the 1st Burma Division. Yeah, there's no reason, I don't think, to wait. Rangoon forces. How are our fighters over here? A lot of these guys are kind of shot up a little bit. We still have 105 aircraft. In terms of fighters over Rangoon, we're down to 49 ready, 35 ready, 49 total. If we go to the actual intelligence report, we are showing that we lost 19 aircraft in air-to-air combat and 4 to operational losses. 23 aircraft is pretty painful. We're claiming the Japanese lost 29 to our 23, so that's a good result if they really did lose more than us. We lost 8 Buffaloes, 7 of them to air-to-air actions. We're claiming 7 Zeros, which is pretty freaking sweet if we shot down 7 enemy Zeros. We're also claiming 6 Sallies, which any Sallies we can shoot down, the better. We've already shot down over 100 so far in the war. The 4 P-40 Warhawks lost would hurt. The 5 Hurricanes would hurt, or will hurt. The enemy also lost 3 Lilies, 3 Nates. We lost 3 H-81A3 P-40B Flying Tiger Warhawks, or whatever the P-40B was called. He lost 2 Adas, 2 Anns, 1 Dina, 1 Mary, 1 Mavis, 1 Alf, 1 Jake. We lost a Blenheim 4 and a Blenheim IF. And that's the day. So 29-3 in terms of air losses. Again, Fog of War applies to his units. Pilots, we lost 3 KIA. Oh, no. Or wait, no, he was already dead, wasn't he? Brownwall was already dead. Got a couple new aces at level 6 here. Most of them are in the Flying Tigers. We got Pappy Boyington up here. He's now a level 6 ace. Congratulations, Mr. Baja Black Sheep. Maybe we'll get you into the South Pacific someday. Okay. So that's good, I guess. We have quite a few aces, actually. It's kind of surprising. We had 7 wounded in actions. Dunapi of the 3rd AVG Squadron is still wounded. Jernstedt of the 3rd AVG Squadron is also wounded. 5 kills for him. Ross T, it looks like, is missing in action. There's a chance if he was shot down over Rangoon, he may wander his way back into our lines and no longer be missing in action. Or there's a chance he could be a POW. But if he was flying over friendly territory, he's probably just missing in action and either dead or will be recovered someday. And we've got a bunch of guys with 4 kills here in the AVG. The AVG Squadron seems to be pretty damn good, although they did lose a fair number of aircraft last turn. These are real pilots. Some of the names are procedurally generated, I believe, and some of them are real. Pappy Boyington, definitely real. There's a list of pilots. I remember for Gary Grigsby's Bombing the Reich, when that game was in development, you could actually request to have your name in it. So you could be one of the names in there, and then that was mixed in alongside historical people as well. The former President Bush, I think 41 was it, is in the game later on in the war when he comes in as a pilot as well. All right, ship sunk. Anything last turn? Nothing. Okay, well, I guess that's good. What about all dates? Sunk date. Most recent, we lost some tankers. Those guys hurt. Cruiser mine layers. What about Japanese losses? Nothing since the 4th. A couple of cargo ships here. All right, so these cruisers are pulling back. No reason to go at full speed anymore. So it looks like the Exeter and the Cape Town should get away. His carriers seem to be pulling away, so they're moving west. So they are moving this way. Or wait, no, this was the battleship group, wasn't it? These are the carriers up here. They're moving east. So that's okay, I guess. Looks like he's basing a major base out of Kopang. He's got 36 bombers at Kopang. He's also got various other transports. So the southwest tip of Timor is for sure going to be something that we have to deal with just north of Australia. What did you say about the Fuso being sunk? I don't think it really was, right? Oh, we're still claiming the Fuso was sunk. Be real great if it was. I don't even think the Congo's sunk there, but... yeah, that's about it. Swing Kang Falls, that's going to suck. There's a level 3 airfield already built there. Most of the important stuff on Celebes has fallen. We've got a lone group of troops here that are isolated and out of supply. They're going to be gone before too long. Let's see here. Bataan, meanwhile, still has how much supply? 37.2. The bombing actually took an effect on the assault value. They were at 1900 last turn. Now they're down to 1847 or 69. Okay. Our carriers at Wellington here do have a 2 out of 2 detection. It's unlikely he actually knows what's here. It does look like the operational whatever of these ships is going to prevent them from moving this turn. We did do some refueling, apparently. Although it looks like mostly ships refueling other ships. So actually, let's do this. I'm going to pull these guys out of Wellington. My assumption with the carriers is that he's got some kind of float plane from a enemy sub that it detected them with. If I disband them in port, he can't really see them with submarines. Not if the port is large enough, anyway. And Wellington is a level 5, so it's safe from submarine interference. So we're going to go ahead and disband them in port just for a moment, because oh, there's no fuel. That's why. Oh, okay. I'd like to bring some of the heavy cruisers down from Auckland, though, because we've got 5 of them there as escorts for these carriers, because we're all in one big task force. So I am going to pull these guys out of Wellington before this turn is up. We've only got 4 heavy cruisers and 4 heavy carriers, or fleet carriers, and 6 light carriers and 11 destroyers. I'd like to pull maybe 3 more, all 3 destroyers at Auckland South, maybe 2 of the heavy carrier or cruisers, maybe 4. 2 heavy cruisers for every carrier might not be a bad idea. But in any event, I'm going to form up a new task force. We're going to move the carriers immediately, maybe south and around the southern tip of New Zealand. And then the plan is going to be to move him to Australia and kind of see what happens. If he makes another raid on the northwest coast of Australia, I'd really like to be able to respond to it. But in any event, in Australia, they're much more centrally placed to deal with the threats that the Japanese are going to bring about. No, I didn't forget fuel, J Street. They just sucked up all the fuel in Wellington itself because Wellington didn't have a lot of fuel. There is actually 47,000 fuel in Auckland, and there's a good rail line connecting the two. So the fuel will get transferred to Wellington in the next turn or two. Additionally, we do have an additional... Where is it? We have an additional 18,000 fuel on their way to support the task force as well, which is more than enough to refuel every ship in the task force right now. So we have 18,000 fuel trailing them in this task force, and they're probably moving to Australia anyway, which means there's even more fuel there. So don't worry, there is plenty of fuel to go around. Let's actually get rid of all these ships that aren't unloading, because I want to dock these guys. We'll have this one tanker here that's going to dock and finish its unloading of fuel. And then we're going to move those tankers back to the U.S. Those guys in Pago Pago. Battleships, surface combat. The battleship Idaho has arrived at Pearl Harbor. Okay. So we're now up to 9 battleships at Pearl Harbor. Now remember, most of those are damaged. But we do have a fair number, actually. We've got the Warspite, the British battleship Warspite, the American battleships Mississippi, New Mexico, Idaho, and Colorado are all currently at Pearl Harbor. That's 5 battleships all ready for combat. Minor damage on the Idaho. They've got 1 engine damage. They'll be repaired in a day. So we've got 5 battleships basically at 100% strength at Pearl Harbor. We've additionally got 4 more that are under repair. One of those will be ready in 4 days. So inside 4 days, we will have a fleet of 6 battleships. Slow battleships, but battleships nonetheless. That we can use to maybe blast the hell out of Midway or something, or maybe Wake Island. I'd like to make a play somewhere. It's just a question of finding out where to go. Probably won't make that decision today, but I do want to make that move before too long. And the reason I want to make that move before too long is we're going to have more troops that are ready in a couple of days. So we are moving via rail. I'm just not sure where they're at. San Diego, maybe. We're moving elements of the Admirals Division around. Okay, so the 164th is the one that's transporting right now. They're just shy. So they're going to arrive in San Diego probably tomorrow. They're on rail cars at the moment, moving to San Diego. They're the only unit in the Admirals Division not currently assigned to the Pacific Theater. We have 605 political points. We need 713 to assign them to the Pacific Theater. As soon as we do that, we will have one of the best Allied infantry divisions in the Pacific Theater. So basically in 2 days, so in 1 day we'll have about 650, and we'll say 3 days, we'll have enough political points to move these guys to the Pacific Theater. At that point, or the Pacific Fleet, at that point we will have a crack infantry division. Experience is a little bit low, but good morale, good equipment, good troops, of over 360, actually over 375 assault value here. And I wouldn't mind giving them a little bit of practice operating against the Japanese. I think his carriers, I think his focus is strongly on the Dutch East Indies at the moment. So if we move in an overwhelming force, and an infantry division would certainly be an overwhelming force, to Midway Island, and we land them there, we could take that base probably pretty quick. We might be able to do the same thing with Wake Island. The challenge in either of these islands is there's a stacking limit of 6,000 men. A full infantry division will exceed that stacking limit and give us a bunch of penalties, but I think that doesn't apply until after we take the island. So in any event, I'll have to look into that a little bit more, but I would love to launch a really early preemptive attack, maybe as early as mid-March. Once those troops get changed to Pacific Fleet, we can have them start preparing for the proper objective of Midway or Wake. And then once we do that, we can probably put together a scratch force. We can bring our carriers up from New Zealand in 2 weeks' time if they're still in the New Zealand area, and we can make a lightning strike. Neither of those bases is super worth a lot. Like 9 victory points isn't worth a ton to us. There's a 36 victory point swing. It's basically a heavy cruiser. But just the fact of doing it, I think, and making making XTRG think. And maybe setting ourselves up with a good sub base against Japan. I don't know. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. Additionally, we do have an enemy task force here moving southwest. PT boat, probably a sub. Could be an individual transport. Unless he's like, where are they moving? Southwest? So they're moving this way. Not moving this way. Could be a fast transport moving toward Wellis Island. Do we have a surface task force we can mobilize here? I don't actually know what it is, but if it is moving that direction, it could be a fast transport trying to dig into the Fiji line. So we're going to speed out this way. It's only a light cruiser, so depending on what he has, I may not have enough to stop him. But if it's like a destroyer or a cruiser mine layer or something, might not be disastrously bad. So I'm going to race the Achilles out here, a light cruiser out to Wallis Island, to potentially stop a landing on either Wallis or Horn Islands.
Operation Drunken Sailor, the invasion of Midway and Wake Islands.
Yeah, you really can't do a Doolittle raid. I'm not going to make my carriers commanded by Raymond Spruance at the moment. Maybe later. They're not going to do anything this turn anyway. Yeah, but it'd be fun to just like hit an enemy island with like 6 battleships and just like blast the hell out of it and see the landing craft go out, and it'd just be fun. Be fun stuff.
Operation Butcher's Beast.
Or best. Butcher's best. But yeah, that's the situation right now, guys. I probably have a fair bit to do off map, with like logistics. That's a thing. Let's take a look at the SIGINT here. So, 2nd Engineer Regiment preparing for an attack on Changsha. That's not a surprise. Sixteenth Army is planning for an attack on Surabaya. That's a headquarters unit, though. That's not a ground unit. It's not super surprising either. Not a lot of other interesting stuff here in the intelligence at the moment. Spruance was not America's greatest admiral, buddy. Overrated. Overrated! Fletcher, man. Fletcher was the fleet commander in all of the close and important carrier battles, dude. Or he was a carrier commander. Maybe a little bit overcautious. Fletcher, I feel like, is a little bit like Meade. General George Gordon Meade. I think horribly underappreciated. And then he ends up, like, shifted away and never really heard from again. I don't even know who's in charge. I thought we had Halsey in charge. Ooh, we should invade the home islands. We should just, like, scrape together every single ship. Just go for it. Be like, just kidding. Series is over, but have fun. All right, these guys are falling back toward Tarkin. They're going to load up some supply. Maybe we can run another 600 supply into the Philippines. But yeah, I don't have a lot of other stuff I'm going to show this turn. I'm going to move some fighters out of Singapore. I'm going to move these guys. By the way, where are their... Dushanbe, Singapore, Surabaya. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to give them drop tanks. We're going to fly them the hell out of here. Get the hell out of Dodge. They can't reach Port Blair, even with the drop tanks. They can reach Sabang. So they're going to go to Rangoon, I guess. These guys are too battered to do anything. We're going to stand down all these aircraft here. Stand down these aircraft here. These Buffaloes. They've got some men back at Surabaya. Really? Just a single plane. Wait. Where are all the other bases? Palembang, Port Blair, Surabaya. Really? Well, have fun going to Rangoon, buddy, because that's where you're headed. We're going to have to get the rest of the squadron up that way. But yeah, I don't want to do too much of this on screen for you guys to watch. So I guess before we go, anything in particular you would like to look at or see? The Revenge has arrived at Cape Town. The Repulse is under repair for another 88 days. I think the Prince of Wales arrives tomorrow. Looks like it arrives in 1 day. So we'll see how long she's going to take to repair. Probably like 2 years. But in any event, she made it out, guys. She's safe. Damaged Dutch cruiser. She make it away? Wow. The Sumatra is escaping, folks, toward Port Hedland, where there's basically no fuel for her. She's suffering floating damage. These guys are going west, so presumably they're still trying to chase her. But she is still trying to escape. I don't think I can get her anywhere further or better supplied. Maybe Broome? Can we get her to Broome? I feel like that might bring her back into enemy air coverage out of Kopang. We could get her to Broome. She is 10 out of 10 detected, though. So if he tries to race her down, I'd rather try and flee toward Port Hedland. So the Sumatra is still alive for the moment. I mean, he's definitely in range from Kopang. So she'll probably get sunk anyway next turn. Do I think he'll attack Australia? Good question. I don't know if he'll attack Australia yet. I do think he will eventually attack Australia. Let's get these tankers out of Townsville. I think he may bomb Darwin, maybe, just to see what's there. Okay, now those guys repairing. All right, we're going to get these guys out as well. I'm basically going to evacuate the northern Australian coast from a shipping perspective. If he wants to waste bombers hitting the land targets, that's fine. Darwin's worth a fair amount of victory points. It's worth 90 to the Japanese. Not a ton, but a fair amount. We're building up fortifications there. We've got some supply there as well. We're at level 3 forts. Ground units here, not a ton of assault value. 217 isn't anything to be sneezed at, though. He probably needs to commit a reasonable amount of troops there to have any chance to take the base. That's the only base on the northern coast that's really worth much. Broome is 70, Derby's 30. I mean, he could collect a fair amount of victory points by taking all of them on the northern Australian coast, but that would activate like 3 or 4 divisions. It wouldn't really change the course of the war, so I think that would be foolish for him to do. The real prizes in Australia are on the Australian east coast. Perth is worth a ton. Perth is also linked via rail versus the east coast. Brisbane is worth 650, same as Perth. Sydney is worth 2,400. Melbourne is worth 2,300. So those are the big ones. Victory points right now: Japan 74.44, and the Allies are at 10.455. Or sorry, 10.4. Yeah, 10.455. So that's the situation right now. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up here. So yet another War in the Pacific episode number 64 is in the books. The war is going reasonably well, but the Japanese are getting more aggressive, and they're not just getting more aggressive, they're getting planfully aggressive. So things are going to become more challenging as our real estate to fall back on sort of begins to dwindle. But that'll be for another time. Until another time, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm out.